In our 53 years of marriage, my husband Arthur collected plaques for his wall. I collected his secrets. He was a loud man. He filled every room. He stood on our patio in La Mesa, pointed at the San Diego lights, and spoke about the world he handled. I was the quiet one, the one who handled the house. He called my silence devotion. He never saw it as observation. He didn't know that for every award he won, I was filing away the receipt for a lie. For every public speech he gave, I was scanning the bank statement for a hidden account. He was building a legacy. I was building a ledger. This isn't a story about shouting. It's not about a public fight. It's about a long, patient accounting. And finally, after a lifetime of watching, it was time to collect. Arthur stood on the patio holding his whiskey. The ice clinked against the glass, a small, sharp sound in the quiet La Mesa evening. He gestured with his free hand toward the lights of San Diego, spread out below us like jewels he owned. "We did well, Elara," he said. He had said it 1,000 times before. He turned and patted my shoulder. His hand was heavy. 53 years. And this meant the sprawling house, the infinity pool, the reputation he had built. "Yes, Arthur," I said. My voice was low. "I am 78 years old. I have been married for 53 of those years. I have learned that most people do not listen. They just wait for their turn to speak. Arthur always spoke first. He was a large man. He took up space. His voice filled the air, and he expected everyone to listen. I learned to be quiet. I learned to watch. I left him on the patio and went inside. The air conditioning made the house cold. I went to his office. It was my office, really. The large mahogany desk was clean, except for the stack of mail I had already sorted. His awards were on the walls. The Man of the Year plaque from the Chamber of Commerce. I saw a fine layer of dust on the frame. I made a mental note to clean it. I sat in the leather chair. It sighed under my weight. I turned on his desktop computer. The hum of the hard drive was a familiar sound. I typed in the password. It was the name of his college baseball team. He had never changed it. His entire life was in this machine. But I was the one who had put it there. I managed his calendars. I sorted his contacts. I scanned and filed every document, every contract, every bank statement. He called me his support. He called me devoted. He never called me observant. A new email had arrived. "Arthur, brilliant move at the fundraiser." I remembered the fundraiser. I remembered the frantic calls to the caterer when the truck was late. I remembered rearranging the seating chart at the last minute because a donor was unhappy. Arthur had arrived, given a speech, and shaken hands. He had taken the credit. He had forwarded the email to me with a note. "Elara, file this." I opened a file on the computer. It was buried deep in a folder marked Household. The file itself was named Recipes. Arthur had never opened it. It was not a recipe book. It was a simple text document. I called it my ledger. I added a new entry, June 14th, annual gala. Credit taken for seating, catering save. Actual work. E-contact board member, Joseph T. I scrolled down. The list was long. It went back 20 years, March 2004. Napa trip. He said it was a business conference. I had found the e-receipt for the hotel. It listed 2 guests. I filed the receipt in the ledger, October 2011. The investment. He had moved $50,000 from our joint account. He said it was for a friend's tech startup. I saw the wire transfer. The friend was a woman I had seen him with at the Prado. The money never came back. I filed the wire confirmation July 2019, the Cayman account. He thought he had shredded the setup documents. He did not know I owned a high-resolution scanner. I filed the scans. I stopped scrolling. I remembered that night at the Prado. I wore a blue dress. It felt too tight. The champagne tasted flat. Arthur was talking to that woman, the one from the investment. He laughed, a loud, false sound, and touched her arm. I had offered an opinion on the painting they were discussing. Arthur had waved his hand. "Elara handles the house," he said. "I handle the world," the woman smiled at him. She did not look at me. I felt myself disappear. The sliding glass door opened, and Arthur came inside. The smell of his cigar smoke came with him. "Are the quarterly reports done?" he asked. He did not look at me. He was looking at his phone. "I finished them," I said. My voice was steady. "Good. Send them to the accountants." He left the room. I sat in the silence. I opened the recipes file again. I opened the scans of his Cayman account. I opened the scans of his foundation's real expense reports. The ones he called discretionary purchases. The ones I knew were illegal. He had risen very high. I had noted every weak point, every hidden wire, every rotten support. His foundation was his pride. It was the first place to strike. I shut down his computer. I went to my own room, at the far end of the hallway. I took my personal laptop from the top shelf of the closet. It was an old machine, but it was clean. It had no files connecting it to him. I opened a web browser. I searched for the address and hours of the La Mesa Public Library. I could not send the email from this house. It had to be clean. It was time to write the first message. The anonymous one. The one to the Internal Revenue Service. I knew the exact account numbers to give them. I had filed them myself. The next morning, I drove our older car, the Lexus sedan, to the La Mesa Public Library. The library was quiet. The air smelled of floor wax and old paper. I did not use my library card. I walked to the public computer terminals in the back. A young man with headphones was typing quickly on one machine. An older woman was reading news on another. I sat at a terminal in the corner. The seat was hard. The keyboard was sticky. I opened the web browser. I created a new free email address. The name I chose was simple, civic.watcher88. I did not use any information that could be traced to me. I used a fake birth date. I used a fake name. I opened the new email account. I clicked compose. I typed in the address for the IRS whistleblower office. I had memorized it. My hands were steady. I did not feel anger. I felt calm. I felt clear. I wrote the email. I kept the language simple, factual. To whom it may concern. I am an associate with knowledge of the Arthur Vance Foundation. I believe financial crimes are being committed. I have attached documents for your review. I listed the facts. I listed the specific account number for the Cayman Islands Bank. I listed the exact dates of wire transfers from the foundation account to his personal account. I listed the discretionary purchases from 2019, the 2-week stay at the hotel in Paris, the custom suits, the jewelry. I had brought a small USB drive. I had copied the scanned documents onto it from my laptop. I plugged it into the library computer. I attached the files, the scans of the bank statements, the scans of the wire confirmations, the scans of the fake invoices I had watched him create. I reread the email one time. It was clean. It was precise. I clicked send. I waited for the page to confirm the message was sent. It did. I logged out of the email account. I removed the USB drive and put it in my pocket. I went to the browser history. I cleared all the data. I shut down the computer. I stood up. The chair scraped quietly on the tile floor. I walked out of the library. The sun was bright. I put on my sunglasses. I drove home. Arthur was in the kitchen when I returned. He was on the phone, his back to me. He was wearing his golf shirt. No, Joseph, he was saying. His voice was loud, full of false friendship. It's not a problem, of course. Consider it done. Joseph T., his main ally on the museum board, the man I had noted in my ledger. Arthur hung up the phone. He turned to me. "Elara, I need you to move our reservation at the club. Thursday, move it to Friday. Joseph is bringing a guest." "I will," I said. "Good." He walked past me, grabbing his keys from the counter. "I'm heading to the course." He did not ask where I had been. He did not notice the small USB drive I held in my hand. The front door closed. The house was quiet again. I went back to his office. The room was cool. I sat in his chair. I turned on his computer. The familiar hum started. I typed in Gulls Baseball. I was in. The IRS tip was a slow-acting poison. It would take months, but Arthur's social world was different. It was built on favors and secrets. Joseph T. was the main support. It was time to find the crack in that support. I navigated to the folder labeled My Vault. He thought it was clever. He had told me about it once, proud of his security. Everything important is in here, Alara. Backed up. He had asked me to set it up for him. The password was Man of the Year 1. I opened the vault. It was full of subfolders, contracts, wills, insurance, and one labeled Personal. I clicked Personal. Inside, I saw a list of trusted contacts. Joseph T. was at the top. Next to his name was a file, JT Drafts. I opened it. It was an email. Arthur had written it 2 years ago, but he had never sent it. He must have written it in anger and then forgotten it. The email was to Joseph. It was about a land deal they had both been in. A deal that went bad for a third partner. The draft read, Joseph, you knew as well as I did that the zoning was never going to be approved. We let him take the fall. That was the agreement. Stopping payment on his share was your idea, so don't come to me acting like your hands are clean. My heart did not beat faster. But I felt the air in the room grow very still. Arthur had not sent it. He had saved it. He had saved the proof of their shared guilt. He had saved the weapon that could ruin Joseph T., and he had left it in a vault that I had the key to. I did not send it. Not yet, I just looked at it. I closed the file. I logged out of his computer. The first move was made. Now I had my second. I just needed to wait for the right moment. The careful, quiet moment. It was August. 2 months had passed since my visit to the library. The heat in La Mesa was heavy and still. I knew the IRS was a slow-moving machine. An investigation like that would take months, perhaps a year. I was patient. I continued my routines. I made Arthur his breakfast. I filed his expenses. I cleaned the dust from his Man of the Year plaque. He had become restless. He checked his phone constantly. He complained that the markets were sluggish. He snapped at the gardener about the cost of water. He did not know an audit was coming. He just felt a distant, incorrect pressure, like a change in the air before an earthquake. He did not know the ground beneath him was already hollow. I was in the kitchen, sorting the mail, when he came in from the patio. Alara, he said. He was looking at his tablet. The museum fundraiser. We're moving up the timeline for the new wing. I looked up. Oh, yes. The city council vote is next month. I need Joseph T. to rally the donors. He's essential. He said the word, essential. I turned back to the mail. I'm sure he will be very helpful, Arthur. He'd better be, Arthur said. I've covered for him enough times. I placed a bill on the counter. I had my cue. It was time for the second strike, the fast one. The next day I told Arthur I was going to the grocery store in Mission Valley. I drove the Lexus. I did not go to the grocery store. I drove to a small coffee shop near the university. The air inside was cold and smelled of burnt coffee and cinnamon. It was crowded. Young people sat at small tables, typing on laptops. An espresso machine hissed loudly. I was invisible. I was just an old woman, waiting for her car to be serviced, perhaps. I bought a small black coffee. I found a table in the back corner, facing the wall. The seat was hard plastic. I took my personal laptop and the small USB drive from my purse. I connected to the public Wi-Fi. The connection was slow. I opened a private browsing window. I created a new temporary email address. time.D. I went to my recipes file on the USB drive. I found the document I had copied from Arthur's vault. JT Drafts. I also had Arthur's old contact lists. The ones he had told me to archive years ago. I found the name Mark Jennings. The third partner, the one who took the fall. I had his personal email address. I opened the new email account. I attached the JT Drafts file. I typed Mark Jennings's email address into the To field. My subject line was simple. Arthur Vance and Joseph T. The body of the email was shorter. Mr. Jennings, you were cheated on the land deal. Here is the proof. This is an email draft Arthur Vance wrote to Joseph T. 2 years ago. He saved it. My finger rested on the trackpad. This was not an anonymous tip to a government office. This was a personal message. This was a rock aimed at the center of a spider's web. I clicked Send. I waited for the page to refresh. Message sent. I logged out. I cleared the browser history. I disconnected from the Wi-Fi. I put the laptop and the USB drive back into my purse. I drank the coffee. It was cold and tasted bitter. I left the shop. The espresso machine hissed behind me. 2 days passed. I was in the kitchen, preparing dinner. I was cutting carrots. The knife made a steady, clean sound against the cutting board. Thwack, thwack, thwack. The front door slammed open. The sound echoed through the house. It made me pause, my hand in midair. Arthur stormed into the kitchen. His face was dark red. His suit jacket was rumpled, and he had pulled his tie loose. He was breathing heavily. "He's out," Arthur said. His voice was low and tight. I turned from the counter. I wiped my hands on my apron. "Who is out, Arthur?" "Joseph, he's resigning. From the museum board. Effective immediately." "What? Why?" "He's pulling his support for the new wing," Arthur said. He threw his briefcase onto the granite counter. The clasp snapped open. He accused me, of betrayal. Betrayal? I kept my voice flat. "What did you do?" "Nothing. That's just it." He paced to the refrigerator and pulled it open, staring inside without seeing anything. He wouldn't even tell me what it was. He said, "Mark Jennings sends his regards." Mark Jennings. After all this time. What does he have to do with anything? Arthur slammed the refrigerator door. "Joseph said I ruined him. He said I broke his trust." "That's terrible, Arthur," I said. He stopped pacing. He looked at me. His eyes were wide and confused. He was looking for an enemy, for someone to blame. He saw only me, his wife, holding an apron. I need a drink," he said. He turned and walked out of the kitchen toward his office. I watched him go. His shoulders were slumped. His proud walk was gone. I turned back to the counter. I picked up the knife. I began cutting the carrots again. The sound was clean, deliberate. September was brittle and hot. The Santa Ana winds blew, carrying the smell of dust through the open windows. Arthur kept the windows closed. He wanted the air conditioning. He said the noise of the wind bothered him. He spent his days in his office. I heard his voice, a low, angry murmur through the closed door. He was on the phone constantly. "What do you mean, reconsidering?" I heard him say. His voice was tight. "The city council was a sure thing. Joseph T. poisoned them. That's what this is." There was a long pause. "No, I understand. Of course. Your position." His voice was flat. He hung up. I was in the hallway polishing the silver. I stopped, my hand holding the soft cloth. I heard the sound of glass breaking. A sharp, heavy crash. I waited. I did not go to him. After a minute, I continued polishing. The rhythmic sound of the cloth on the silver was the only sound in the house. The museum wing was dead. Joseph's resignation had started a panic. The other donors, the ones who had followed Arthur's lead for years, were pulling their support. They did not want to be associated with a betrayal. The word had stuck. Mark Jennings had made sure of it. Arthur's reputation was his currency. It was the only thing he truly owned, and it was failing. He came out of the office later. His eyes were red. He did not look at the broken whiskey glass on the floor. He walked right past it. "Alara," he said. He looked at the phone in his hand, not at me. "We need to liquidate the discretionary fund, the one in the foundation." I stopped polishing. "The one for emergencies?" "This is an emergency," he snapped. "The market is down. I need capital. I need to shore up the consulting business. People are hesitant. He meant his clients were leaving. "That account is for the foundation's operating costs, Arthur," I said quietly. "The charter! Damn the charter!" he shouted. "It's my money. I built it. Just get me the account details. I need to make the transfer." "Of course," I said. "I'll get them." He did not know I had already sent those account details to the IRS. He was walking directly into the trap I had set. He was about to perform the exact crime I had accused him of, all to fix a problem I had created. I went to the kitchen. I made a pot of coffee. I cleaned up the broken glass in his office. He sat in his chair, staring at the blank computer screen. I placed the coffee on his desk. He did not look up. The next afternoon, the mail arrived. I sorted it on the kitchen counter, as I always did. Bills, magazines, junk, and a white envelope. It was heavier than the other letters. The paper was thick. In the top left corner there was no personal name, just the seal of the United States. Internal Revenue Service. Official business. My hand did not shake. I placed the envelope on top of the pile. I carried the mail into his office. He was on the phone again, his voice pleading. "Henry, just listen to me. It's a misunderstanding. Joseph is emotional. You know how he is. He saw me." He waved his hand, dismissing me. I did not leave. I stood in the doorway, holding the small stack of mail. "Henry, Yes, I'll hold." He put the phone to his chest. He looked at me, his face full of annoyance. "What is it, Alara?" "I'm busy. I am trying to save us." "The mail, Arthur," I said. I walked forward. I placed the stack on his desk. I put the white envelope directly in front of him. He glanced down. He saw the seal. His annoyance vanished. "Hello, Henry?" he said into the phone, his eyes still on the envelope. I have to call you back." He hung up the phone. The room was silent. He picked up the letter. He looked at it. He did not open it. "What is this?" he whispered. "It's from the IRS, Arthur," I said. He stared at the return address. His face, which had been red with anger, was now pale. He looked sick. He used a letter opener from his desk. His hand fumbled with it. The paper tore raggedly. He pulled out the pages. There were 3 of them. I watched him read. I saw his eyes move across the lines. I saw the moment he understood. His shoulders, which had been tense and high, suddenly collapsed. He sank into his chair. "Audit," he said. The word was just air. "What?" I asked. "An audit." He looked up at me. His eyes were wide. He was not the man of the year. He was not the man who handled the world. He was just a terrified old man. "They're auditing the foundation," he said. They're asking about the Cayman account. They're asking about the discretionary fund. They're asking about everything." He looked at the letter. He looked at me. "Ilara," he said. His voice was shaking. "They want records from the last 5 years. They want—" "Alara, you have all the files." He was breathing quickly. "You managed all of it," he said. "The files, the passwords, the bank statements. I don't know where anything is." He reached across the desk. He put his hand on my arm. His skin was cold and damp. "You have to help me," he said. "You have to find the documents. You have to fix this." I looked at his hand on my arm. I covered it with my own. "Of course, Arthur," I said. "I'll get everything. I'll help you." We spent the next week in his office. The blinds were drawn. The air was stale, thick with the smell of his fear and the cold coffee I kept bringing him. He sat at his desk. I sat in the guest chair, my personal laptop open. I had brought boxes from the garage. "For the files, Arthur," I had said. He was completely dependent on me. "Alara, find the 19 statements." "Alara, where did we file the incorporation papers for the foundation?" "Alara, call the accountant." "No, wait, don't call him. He might know." I found the documents. I printed the statements. I organized everything into neat piles. I gave him the files I knew the IRS already had. I couldn't find the ones that proved his intent. It's just bad record-keeping, Alara," he said, his voice hoarse. He was trying to convince himself. "Sloppy, that's all. We'll pay a fine. It will be fine." "I'm sure you're right, dear," I said, my fingers typing on my laptop. But the fine was not his only problem. His consulting business was silent. No one called. His clients had vanished. The museum board had formally voted to cancel the new wing. His name was now associated with failure, with betrayal. He needed money. He had payroll to make for an office that had no work. He had club dues. He had the mortgage on this house. "It's a cash flow problem," he said, staring at the wall. "That's all. We just need to move money from the main portfolio, just to cover things until this mess is over." He motioned to his desktop computer. "Log me in, Alara. The main bank. The brokerage account." "Of course, Arthur." I turned to his computer. I typed in the username. I typed in the password. A new screen appeared. "Two-factor authentication. A code has been sent to your device." Arthur picked up his expensive smartphone. He stared at the black screen. He tapped it. He shook it. "Nothing," he said. His voice was high. "It's not coming. Why am I not getting the code?" He looked at the computer screen. This isn't my phone number. The last 2 digits. 47. My number ends in 88. What is this? Did you set this up?" I held up my own phone. It was an old simple phone. Not a smartphone. It was in my hand. It vibrated. It was for security, Arthur, I said. You told me you were worried about being hacked. I linked the account to my number for safekeeping. You approved it last year. Don't you remember? He stared at me. He did not remember. He remembered nothing. The code, I said, reading from my screen, is 745110. I typed it in. The bank portal opened. There, I said. We're in. He leaned forward, his eyes fixed on the screen. He was ranting. We'll move 100,000. That should be enough. This is ridiculous. Joseph T. will pay for this. When I am cleared. He kept talking. He was talking to himself. He did not see what I was doing. I was not moving 100,000. I was not on the transfer screen. I was on the wire screen. I had spent the last 2 months setting up new accounts at a different bank. Accounts under my name. My name only. I had gone through the small verification deposits. I had confirmed them. They were ready. I typed in the first new account number. I typed in the amount. I clicked confirm. I went to the next account. The joint checking. I typed in the second new account number. I typed in the amount. I left him $1,000. I went to the brokerage portfolio. I clicked liquidate. I moved the resulting cash to the checking account. Then I moved it again. It took less than 5 minutes. The work of 53 years. I clicked log out. It's done? He asked, his rant finished. Oh, Arthur, I said. I let my voice sound thin. Look, I logged back in. I typed the code from my phone.
The main summary page loaded. We both looked at the numbers. Checking, $1,000. Savings, $500. Brokerage account, 0.0. He stared.
He did not understand. What is this? He whispered. Where is it? Where is the money? It's gone, I said. Gone? He grabbed the mouse, clicking wildly. It's a mistake. It's the audit. The IRS. They froze it. They froze our accounts. He was breathing in short, shallow gasps. Call the bank, he screamed. He slammed his hand on the desk. Call them now! Tell them who I am! Tell them to put it back. I picked up the phone from his desk. I dialed the bank's premier client number. I put it on speaker. A polite voice answered. Fidelity Premier Services, how may I help you? Hello, I said, my voice calm. My husband and I are checking our accounts. It seems the balances are incorrect. I see, Mrs. Vance. Let me check. Yes. I see a series of wire transfers. Authorized this morning. The voice was cheerful. 3 large transfers. All confirmed. Transfers? Arthur leaned toward the phone. What transfers? We didn't authorize. They were authorized with the 2-factor code, sir. The voice said. To the external accounts? Let's see. EV Holdings, LLC. What is that? Arthur said. I've never heard of that. Alara, what is that? I looked at him. It's the account I set up, dear. For safekeeping, his face went pale. He finally understood. He was looking at me. Really looking at me. Not as his support. Not as his devotion. He was seeing me. You, he whispered. You did this. I did not change my expression. I did not smile. I reached over and pressed the button on the speakerphone, ending the call. The office was completely silent. The silence in the office was heavy. It pressed down. Arthur stared at me. His mouth was open. The color had left his face. He looked gray. You, he whispered again. He could not seem to form other words. You. I stood up from the guest chair. I did not feel angry. I did not feel happy. I felt finished. Yes, Arthur, I said. My voice was even. He stood up so fast his chair screeched and hit the wall. You thief! You stole it! You stole my money. I transferred it, I said. I looked at the desk, at the computer. It was our money. I was the one who managed it. I was the one who saved it. You were the one who spent it. You were the one who hid it. I gave you this house, he shouted. His voice cracked. I gave you everything. This life, your clothes, your car. 53 years, I gave you everything. You gave me your receipts, I said, my voice still quiet. You gave me your passwords. You gave me your schedules to manage and your messes to clean. You gave me your secrets to file away. You gave me this office. I looked around the room, at the awards on the wall, at the heavy mahogany desk. You thought I was just part of the furniture, I said. You thought I was just another one of your assets. Something to manage the house. He stepped toward me. His hands were shaking. He raised a finger. I will call the police. I will tell them you stole millions. I will have you arrested. I did not step back. I looked at his finger. And what will you tell them, Arthur? I asked. That your wife, who had legal access to all your accounts, moved your joint assets? Will you tell them that after you tell them about the IRS audit? Will you explain to them that you were trying to move that exact money before the government could seize it? His finger slowly lowered. Will you show them the Foundation's real ledger? I continued. The one in the Cayman account? The one I gave to the IRS 2 months ago? Will you tell them about Joseph T. and the land deal? The email you wrote? The one I sent to Mark Jennings? His breath caught. He finally understood. He saw the entire plan. He saw all the pieces. He saw me. You did all of it, he whispered. He stumbled back. He felt for his chair and collapsed into it. The audit, Joseph, the clients. It was all you. Yes, I said. He stared at his hands. He looked like a balloon that had been emptied of air. He was a shell. The man of the year was gone. The boisterous man from the patio was gone. Why? He asked. His voice was small. 53 years. Why, Alara? I thought for a moment. I thought about the dinner parties. I thought about the woman at the Prado. I thought about him saying, Alara handles the house. I handle the world. You never saw me, Arthur, I said. You never knew my name. You just knew my function. I turned and walked out of the office. I left him there, in the cold, silent room, with a letter from the IRS and a bank account that held $1,000. I walked down the hall. I did not look at the paintings. I did not look at the pool. I went to my room. My room was at the end of the hall. It was small. He had called it my study. It was where I slept. I opened the closet. On the top shelf, behind the old blankets, was a small black suitcase. It was packed. It had been packed for a month. I took it down. I walked out of my room. I walked to the front door. I put the suitcase on the tile floor of the entryway. I opened my purse. I took out the key to the Lexus. I also took out the heavy ring of house keys. The keys to the front door, the back door, the office, the wine cellar. I had carried them for decades. I placed the ring of keys on the hall table next to a vase I had polished yesterday. I picked up my suitcase. I opened the front door. The hot, dry air of the afternoon hit my face. I did not look back. I walked down the path to the driveway. I got into the old Lexus. The leather seat was hot from the sun. I put the key in the ignition. The engine started. It was a quiet sound. I backed out of the driveway. I put the car in drive. I drove down the winding road, away from the house on the hill. I could see the lights of San Diego starting to appear in the dusk. Pass socket. I did not drive to the airport. I did not leave San Diego. I drove to a small apartment building in University City. I had leased it 3 weeks ago under my maiden name, Alara Sorensen. The apartment was on the 4th floor. It faced a courtyard with a fountain that did not work. The room smelled of new paint and carpet glue. It was empty except for a bed, a small table, and 1 chair. I had paid for them in cash. I rolled my black suitcase into the small closet. I plugged my laptop into the wall outlet. I sat in the chair. I did not turn on the television. I did not call anyone. I sat in the silence as the sun went down. The light in the room turned from white to gray to dark. I heard cars on the street below. I heard the elevator ding in the hallway. These were the sounds of other people, living their lives. They were not the sounds of my house. I slept for 10 hours. The next morning, I walked to a coffee shop. I bought a black coffee and a pastry. I sat at an outdoor table. No one knew me. I was just an old woman in sunglasses, reading the news on her phone. I waited a week. I established a routine. I walked to the grocery store. I bought a pot and a pan. I bought eggs and bread and coffee. I read a book from the small neighborhood library. On the 8th day, I sat at my small table and opened my laptop. I typed Arthur Vance into the search engine. It was the first result. The San Diego Union Tribune. The headline was large. Prominent La Mesa philanthropist investigated for fraud. I clicked the link. I read the article. It was very factual. It detailed the IRS audit of the Arthur Vance Foundation. It mentioned credible anonymous tips and significant evidence of fund misappropriation. It listed the Cayman account. It quoted a federal spokesperson. The investigation is ongoing. I scrolled down. There was another article from 2 days ago. Vance Museum wing canceled. The board had voted unanimously. A new chairman, replacing Joseph T., said they were moving in a new, more transparent direction. I kept searching. I found the public records, the house in La Mesa. The bank had filed a notice of default. The foreclosure process had begun. He had not made the mortgage payment. He could not. I found one last item. A small note in a local social column. Arthur Vance, formerly of the museum board, has reportedly been taken ill. I closed the browser. I opened the USB drive. I found the file named Recipes. I opened it. I scrolled down past 20 years of entries. The Napa trip, the investment, the gala, the land deal. I went to the very bottom of the document. I typed today's date. I wrote, November 1st, La Mesa House, foreclosure. Foundation dissolved. Museum wing canceled. Bank accounts 0. Reputation gone. I read the line one time. Then I read the entire file, from the beginning to the end. It was the story of my life, the one I had watched from the silence. I moved the cursor to the top of the document. I selected all the text. I pressed the delete key. The page was blank. I saved the empty file. I closed it. I ejected the USB drive. I put the small piece of plastic in the kitchen drawer, underneath a new set of spoons. I would not need it again. I finished my coffee. The apartment was quiet. I looked out my window. I could not see the ocean. I could not see the lights of downtown San Diego. I saw the courtyard. I saw another building. I stood up. I went to the small kitchen. I opened the refrigerator. I decided I would make an omelet for lunch. Just for me.